Here we are. So good day, everyone. It's Friday again. I'm so excited to be here today. If you do not know who I am, my name is Natasha Phipps, and I am a investment-focused realtor here in Calgary. The Calgary Real Estate Investing Facebook group is our team's group here, and our goal is to provide information, resources, education, and also build a network for people who are interested in investing in Calgary. So the point of these weekly live streams is to chat with local real estate investors investing in the market so we can all learn and grow together. And I couldn't be more excited today to be joined by Andrea and Kevin. I will have to dive into this, but Andrea has actually become a realtor and recently joined my team. And I was trying to think back to when we would have first met. We will talk about that. But thank you guys for being here today. Excited to have you.
Yeah, we're really excited to be here.
Awesome. It should be great. So the first thing we always like to just talk about is let's introduce you guys a little bit, how you got into real estate investing. Right before we hopped on this, we did touch on like how young you guys got into this. And that is what I really want to convey this message today of how important that is and how exciting that is for you guys. But let's talk about kind of roll it back to the beginning a little bit, how you got into this journey of real estate investing.
Yeah. So I'll take this one. I think it started a little bit with me. I'm originally from Quebec, and I'd been dabbling in looking at real estate when I was through university. And when I graduated, I moved out here in Calgary. And the real estate market in Alberta was very different than the real estate market in Quebec. In Quebec, there's a lot more plexes that people buy. The prices are a lot different. So what people were buying was a lot different. So I joined the real estate investment network, RAIN. At that time, I think I was probably around 27. And really, that's how we got started. I think we met you, Natasha, at one of the Acre events in Edmonton.
Yes.
And that's how it all got started. I was part of the RAIN network, I think, for a few years, but for almost 6 to 8 months on my own. And then Andrea came to an Acre event with me, and we saw the opportunity. We were just getting into the market. We were buying our first property.
Yeah.
And we were looking either at buying a townhouse or we can talk about this a little bit more later, but we ended up buying one of a legalized suited duplex. And it was a great way for us to get into the market.
Yeah.
Because there is such a small difference between that and a townhouse in terms of prices, right, that we were able to afford it. And the risk to buy was fairly limited. And we've had it rented ever since. So that's how we got started. Since then, we've bought another property. We've legalized the basement suite. And yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely Kevin. When I was younger, I hadn't really thought of real estate investing. I did have some family members who did invest in real estate, but it wasn't something that we often talked about. So Kevin was really the one who inspired that. And I think I was definitely more cautious starting out when we were looking for our first home to purchase together. I wasn't sure at first what it'd be like to be a landlord and to have that as part of our strategy. And like Kevin said, we had looked at options, maybe just living in something ourselves, such as a townhouse, and then saving up for an investment property later. But ultimately we decided to purchase the duplex, and then we lived in the upstairs and rented out the legal suite in the basement. And that was a great way, I think, for us to get into it. And it was great for us. We still had the luxury, I guess, of living in a new home because it was a new property, which was great. And we liked the community, and it was also perfect, I think, for first-time landlords that our tenants were just downstairs. So if there was any issue, it was just easy to deal with that. And we could also kind of keep an eye on things and see how they were doing. So that was a really good way for us to ease into it.
You guys did so many smart things there. Like, first of all, you joined a community, you found a network, you got the education, right? And whether you're a parent of someone who's younger or you're, buying your first property, like thinking about it from this perspective is huge. And I'm sure living in, Cornerstone in a suite of duplexes, Andrea, probably wasn't the first thing you thought of when you were buying your first house, right? So there was an element of sacrifice there that you guys had to make to set yourselves up for success. But what better time to make those sacrifices than when you're buying your first house, right? So like, I couldn't be more proud or excited that you guys went down that path, because it really sets you up. And I love also that it was something easy to get going with. Like, you don't need to make it super hard either, because it's very easy to get wrapped up in the HGTV shows and think you need to, do a great big project to make it worthwhile as an investment property, right? So, but was that, how did you deal with that kind of sacrifice a little bit?
Well, and just to come back on one thing you said, that
Yeah.
was something at first that I struggled with, was kind of, it looked very intimidating to invest in real estate.
Yeah.
And one thing that I did find when I originally joined RAIN is the information given there was awesome. But you try to associate with the people that that are your age and stuff like that.
Yes.
And realistically, there was only a handful of people that were below 35 that were assisting at those events.
Yeah.
The problem that I saw where I didn't fit in was a lot of those people were quitting their jobs and trying to flip 12 houses at the same time. And for me, it's great if it works for them, but for me, I have a solid job and I still like my job. I want to do real estate, but if I can buy a house every year for the next years, I'll be very happy.
That's right.
So it was kind of tricky at first, because there was no people like us that was just like, well, let's do it like the simple way,
Or we hadn't met many people like that, maybe. Yeah. I think that was the intimidating thing. Like you said, you see these shows, or even sometimes the podcasts or at these networks, like, people have so many doors. We haven't met a lot of people who were doing it maybe a little bit slower, or doing it as a part-time thing while they are pursuing their career and other things. Which now I think we've met more people and seen that is possible for sure, but that was intimidating at first a little bit.
And that was one of the largest inspirations of why I wanted to do these videos like this, because it can be intimidating for sure. I mean, I've been intimidated more times than it can count as well, right? Like, it's intimidating, but there is also this aspect of, it's also not what I think we think. Most investors don't have 100 doors. Most investors don't actually, fully quit their jobs. And it doesn't need to be the goal either. Like, if you love your job and you're happy with it, great. If you want to replace your income and quit, great, right? So I think what you said there is so important, to know that there is no one right way to do this. And there also is huge merit in keeping your job, getting those mortgages, building up that portfolio over time. I mean, that is predictable, which is incredible when you're building some sort of financial plan. So, like, bravo to you for thinking that way.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is we had to do sacrifices, like you mentioned. We stayed in Cornerstone, but we still had a new house, so we could have bought maybe a bigger house, but we made the choice to make those sacrifices. Right. But 20 years down the road, we'll have houses that are paid off, exactly, which will be amazing, because it's been so easy, really, starting that way. And then we've graduated to, we legalized the basement suite. We did the renovations ourselves. Now we're starting to look at stuff, but we're gradually taking it one step further, as opposed to jumping with both feet. We're limiting our risks. And like you said, by keeping our jobs, we can easily get the mortgages, which is a good thing. So
exactly. Yeah.
And in retrospect, I think that when we were initially looking for our first home, it was, as a first-time home buyer, we were excited, obviously, about having that home and looking, okay, maybe that wasn't the area we originally were looking to move to, or to have something that was semi-detached. But in retrospect, like, it was so great that we did that. And I feel really grateful for you that you helped to steer us that way, because then I do have other friends that I'm seeing, who maybe bought a condo in a trendy area downtown or something like that, which is awesome when you're young. Like, it's so great to have that. But now, like, they are having a lot of trouble selling, or have lost a lot of value on it. And so I feel very fortunate that we made that decision, and it was a good time to do it as well. Like, we don't have kids yet at this point, so it's easier for us to do some of these things now, and we don't have to worry as much about some of those extra factors. So that was great.
Yeah, that's why it is the time, right? And then you can't go back and repurchase your first couple of properties, right? So taking advantage of being able to put 5% down on a primary residence, doing that a couple of times as you're getting established with yourself. I mean, that in itself, like, you don't get that opportunity again after you've have a handful of properties. The bank will only believe that so many times, right? So that in itself is a huge opportunity to kind of rewind for people who didn't do that. So it was a choice that was made based on the fundamentals that we teach and learn about in these investment groups, where you're buying a property type in low supply and high demand in areas of growth. Like, that's what we did. And it's absolutely paid off. So that's really exciting. I want to talk about the suite legalization, because I mean, right now, this is like, we talk about this every single day as realtors, as investors. Like, it's a topic that's ever evolving and can be kind of intimidating as well. If you've only maybe done something turnkey, or you're trying to get into that first renovation. So was this an avenue that you kind of always wanted to pursue to get into renovations from the beginning?
Yes, I come from construction background.
Yeah.
I work as a project manager in a construction company, so I've kind of dabbled in it.
Yeah.
We didn't want to do it for our first one because, like I said, it seemed kind of intimidating when we were first viewing properties. We were like, okay, well, but when we did our second house, then we said, okay, well, like, now we know that the first rental is fine. It's rented out. It's doing okay. We feel comfortable taking a little bit more risk.
Yeah.
And right now, with the city of Calgary legalization, like all that they have in place, they've made it, honestly, it won't be any easier. It was super easy to get through the process. We bought a property that already had kind of an existing suite, obviously, but didn't require anything major other than, integrated fire alarm and stuff, and then drywall ceiling because it had a T-bar ceiling.
Okay.
So it wasn't too complicated, and honestly, the inspection process was seamless. And the longest thing we had to wait is we had a RC1 narrow lot, so we had to apply for a development permit. That was the only long part, because we actually had to wait, I think, almost 3 months before we finalized that permit process and we could start building. But other than that,
part of that too, I think, was just things were backed up with COVID and everything was what the feedback we were getting from the city, so that extended things. But.
Yeah, for sure, 2 to 3 months. So this was completed last year, 2020.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and we did the majority of the work by ourselves. We did have contractors come in for the electrical, but we did all the updating. We put in new floors, we painted. Like Kevin said, we had to drywall the ceiling. We had to take out tile in some areas. So it was a fun project, a learning project, and a good test for our marriage, for sure. When you're working on a construction project together, lots of days working in the basement, but it turned out really well. So
again, more sacrifices, right? Will pay off later.
Learned a lot of skills, for sure. Learned a lot of construction skills working in the basement. So.
That's right. Well, and then it gets easier, right? The more you do it, or you find out, okay, I absolutely will not do that again, but this part was okay, right? You kind of learn what's good. And I mean, and I know, I mean, your guys' schedules are crazy. Like, yes, you don't have kids yet, but you're both working. Kevin, you're in and out of the city a lot for work. So you had to kind of make that happen. So I absolutely know that was a sacrifice of the time that you were home. I'm sure when you'd probably rather be having a beer and watching a show or something. But so the suite's done, it's rented out. And are you guys still self-managing?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So property that we previously lived in, we now have tenants in the upstairs and downstairs.
Yeah.
And then we are living in our current house, and we have the legal suite here now that we worked on, and there's tenants in there as well. And we are self-managing the 3 doors.
Awesome. That's great. And who does the bulk of that, or how do you guys share that work between the two of you?
Andrea does a lot of the communications and the paperwork side of things.
Yeah, it's a little tricky sometimes with Kevin being in and out a bit, but so I handle some of that stuff. And then if there's repairs or that kind of thing, then Kevin takes a little bit
For sure.
more of that on.
That's good. Well, that's, you know, that's teamwork. You guys each have your strengths. So what is the next kind of goals for you guys? Like looking, you know, forward the next kind of 5 years, what do you want to repeat the process that you've just done? Like, what are you thinking that you want to kind of take on next? Or is this good for now and we're happy with what we got?
Yeah. No, I think within the next year or so, we'd like to buy maybe something that's more permanent for us.
Okay.
And have this house as a full rental, because in the next few years, you know, we're going to start talking about having a family and stuff like that. But obviously, still continuing to buy. I think long-term buy and hold. So as much as we can, we're going to continue to buy. We'd like to do another basement suite, I think, before the city of Calgary changes the laws, because it's just such a great opportunity right now. So maybe that. We're starting to look potentially at working with partners, stuff like that. So
yes, that's a big next jump, right? And Andrea, you've recently just got your real estate license. So moving into joint venture partnerships and a realtor, I mean, I think your value proposition is going to be huge. But why did you get into real estate as a realtor as well?
Yeah. Well, back, I guess it would have been last fall, Kevin and I were just having some conversations. I work as a coach as well. So that has been my full-time career for the last several years. And there's obviously been some uncertainty with that, with everything that's happened in the last year. And we were talking, and I just wanted something that had flexibility, but I also served my passions, and real estate kind of checked all those boxes. So I took the courses in the fall. And because we had done some investing already, I had some knowledge from that already. And so that's kind of where things took off.
Yeah, that's exciting. I want to highlight as well what you said, Kevin, too, that your next purchase, so might be your guys more like forever home, right? Or your family home. And like for those listening, this couple has bought 2 properties before they're even thinking about their family home, right? Like that is the way to do it. So if you have kids or you have anyone getting and going in life, like this is the way to do it. They have security. They now have options. What if something happens in the future? What if, you know, someone gets sick, or what if you need to change careers or you want to start a business? You now have these assets over here that are taking care of themselves, giving you income, and are giving you security. So I mean, in this day and age, like that's really hard to find. People are looking for security, and this is the way to do it. So I'm really, really excited about that for you guys. For someone who is, I would like to hear your guys' kind of, we talked about it a little bit, but kind of what you would tell your friends about real estate. Like what advice would you give someone kind of getting going? Because like you said, it can be intimidating, it can be overwhelming. And right now there is like no shortage of information out there, that it's almost too much information. So what advice would you give someone wanting to kind of get going into this?
Yeah, well, for me, I think, and that's kind of my takeaway from when I was with Rain, and it's first of all, see what you're comfortable with, and see what works for you. There's different levels of risks, and something that works for someone might not work for you.
Yes.
We got into our first property was very low risk, realistically, because there was only a few $100s on the mortgage in comparison to townhouse that we would have bought and we'd have lived for ourselves. So
Right.
the risk that we were taking by buying that cornerstone property was really negative. There was no risk. So I think that's what's super important is, real estate has always been a great investment vehicle. But you need to figure out what's good for you, what works for you, what level of risk you feel comfortable with, and what level of risk is going to keep you up at night, because you don't want to buy an investment property and then not sleep.
No.
And then I think it's taking gradual steps.
Mhm.
When you start early, you're going to make mistakes, but there's no mistakes that time won't fix, because you're starting at 25 or you're starting at 30.
That's right.
You're going to pay down the mortgage and you're going to be so happy by the time you're 50.
Yeah.
Even if you don't do much, even if you buy one or two properties and then you let them sleep for 20 years, it's going to be an incredible return.
Yeah. For me, it was definitely just getting the information and those connections too. Like I said, I was definitely a little more cautious to start, whereas Kevin had some more information, was already part of some groups, and it took me a little more time to get comfortable with that, but it helped going to some of these courses and listening to different podcasts. And like you said, there's so much out there, so you do have to maybe narrow down a little bit to what's of interest to you. But that really helped for me. And I mean, now it's something that I turned into a career as a realtor, and something that we really have talked a lot about long-term for even just working towards financial freedom. This is a big part of our plan in real estate investing. And that's something that we would like to retire early and, then be able to maybe still be working, but not in a position where we have to work for our expenses. That's just for something that we do for something we enjoy, I guess. So real estate has been a big part of that as our plan so far.
Absolutely. Wow. Such good advice. There's no way to do this alone, really. Like I think the critical thing there was you guys found like-minded people, even though they maybe weren't your age, but at least you were finding a community of people doing this, right? Now it's easier, I think, a little bit than maybe it was a few years ago to find people in your own kind of age group and demographic, with the way Facebook groups are, and the information is just so abundant. So I think that's a little bit easier, but it is still definitely there. I mean, it's intimidating to go into some of these spaces. So, if there's anyone out there, certainly reach out to Andrea and Kevin and chat with them about their experiences. I mean, I think you guys would make excellent joint venture partners as well. There's definitely something to be said when you're a single individual and you're trying to get into this on your own, finding a way to do this with other people to alleviate some of that fear and risk as well is so powerful. It's much better than doing absolutely nothing at all. So I think that's really exciting. I was just kind of thinking we should go back a little bit, because we did kind of glaze over the secondary suite thing. And I think people are probably, I'm just guessing there's probably questions in there. But just to quickly summarize what Kevin was talking about in terms of the changes happening this year, is there is a big change coming with the city of Calgary at the end of 2021 in terms of what the rules are around secondary suites. And so the reason Kevin was mentioning getting one before the end of this year is because the requirements to have that suite legalized are much different. Like, this is a huge difference in terms of budget and requirements. So it's essentially one after the 2021 deadline, you'll have to meet building code, whereas right now you can meet fire code and get legalized. Did I lose you guys?
Nope.
Oh, there you are.
See it?
Yeah, I think you just froze. I think you're froze. Oh, there you are. There you are. So I just want to make that part clear to those people watching. The market right now, of course, is super low inventory, as you guys are probably seeing. It's, as a realtor and as an investor, it's very challenging. Our team is working very hard to try to find off-market opportunities and deals, because you need to find something that has an existing suite in it already, that you can use to take advantage of the fire code requirements. So after that deadline passes, it won't matter really whether it's an existing suite or a new suite. You'll have to meet the full building code requirements, which I've done a few of those renovations, and they're big, they're extensive, they're totally different. It's a totally different thing. So I just want to kind of make that clear. I'm trying to think what else we should touch on. I mean, we covered a lot. I think building the community, building the team, finding like-minded people. I think parents in this investment community or the younger generation, I mean, there's such a huge opportunity right now. Interest rates are incredibly low. There's really good opportunities out there that can have these kind of life-lasting benefits, right? This will carry you through the majority of your life if you make a few decisions along the way. But was there anything else you guys wanted to add?
No, I think that's one thing you touched on, Natasha, is building your team.
Yeah.
It's so important, and like I learned so much through REIN, but probably my biggest takeaway from like real estate is simple. It's numbers, it's what goes in, what goes out, and as long as it's cash flow positive, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's knowing the right people, and that's probably my biggest takeaway from REIN is, well, we met you through there. We also met Ryan through you that you had last week.
Mm-hmm.
So we met our power team through the groups. I also met a few friends that we still talk to today that are doing stuff, and even though some, like I said, are maybe a little bit more aggressive than what works for me, just to have those people and see that, okay, well, he did 12 properties last year. Like I feel like, okay, well, it's doable, and so just being around like-minded people is so important, and yeah, try to find a team and a few friends that are doing the same thing, and you'll be golden.
Exactly. Yeah. Finding your power team and having the people around you doing it, whether you need to keep up with them or not, that's irrelevant. The benefit of it is that it helps push that needle forward for you. Like you said, it's one step at a time, right? And if it's really easy to get caught up in our lives and not be engaging in events or communities and stuff, because everyone's life is busy, but it's being really intentional with that time, and finding those people will really help to push that needle forward for you. So that's excellent advice as well.
It's always about the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yes. It's so true.
And we're really open. I mean, if there's anyone listening and like you said, they want to chat or they're not sure about what strategy or how they're going to enter investing, we would be happy to share our experience and chat about it more.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one nice thing about the investment community I find is, like, really everyone is willing to share. It's awesome. Everyone is willing to share their experiences and learn from each other. Take the knowledge of what's come before you, right? And use it to your advantage.
There's always enough deals for everyone to go around. So
yes. Absolutely. And everyone has different goals and strategies in mind that they want to do. So there's plenty to go around. There's no shortage of real estate out there. Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you guys so much for doing this with me today. And I really want to give you guys serious props for what you've done in your journey so far. This is not a race. This is real life. And I think the steps that you've made are extremely smart, and just making a few sacrifices along the way can really be the difference maker. And I loved your example, Andrew, of kind of how maybe some of your other friends got into real estate, and the difference that is of the choices that you guys have made. So big props to you. I really encourage anyone out there listening to have a chat with them, see what you can learn from one another, see if there's an opportunity to, do any sort of joint venture together or project together. You never know where a conversation will take you, whether it's a good fit or not. There's always something to learn from one another. So I urge you to absolutely reach out to them. So I will tag them below in the description and in the Facebook post, and you can reach out to them on your own accord. So I just thank you guys so much for being here today, and hope you have a good weekend upcoming.
Thank
Thanks,
you so much for
Natasha.
having us. This was great. Have a
Absolutely.
good weekend too, Natasha.
Okay, take care, guys.